Hi. So, if you are someone who thinks that burnout is just the price you have to pay to be successful or to get where you want to go, this live is for you because I want to talk to you about why that's not true, give you a little bit of the neuroscience of what's going on when you burn out, and then also tell you what you can do to prevent burnout, even if you've got a really demanding life, career, all the things. And if you don't know who I am, hello, my name is Diana Bando. I'm a licensed attorney. I'm a nervous system expert. On here, I'm the stress whisperer. And I am a love coach who works with clients who have big goals, big dreams, like to live in the fast lane, like to keep their tempo high. And the type of people who get told, like, you need to do less, you're gonna burn out, you're burning the candle at both ends. And I just want to help dispel that myth because the truth is, like, the people that move society forward, the ones whose names are remembered for hundreds of years, like, they're usually the ones who are doing a lot of things, getting less sleep than they're supposed to, and like, they get to the end of their life and they're excited. And so it can't just be that doing too much is what burns you out. And if you really think about it, like, we've all had that experience where you were working on something that you were really excited about or that you really believed in and that you loved, and even after a full day or two or a week, you still had energy afterwards. Why is that? Well, that is what I want to get into today, explaining why that happens and how you can actually choose for that to happen at will. So, to get things started, let's talk about what burnout is, because I don't think that there's like a standard definition. And I don't care if the definition I give you is in a textbook or not. Like, this is just the definition that works for me and the one that I give my clients. So, I define burnout as literally just your inner child throwing a temper tantrum. And what I mean by that is we all have an inner child. We all have a little mini version of us that's 4 years old, 5 years old, that just wants to play and have fun and frolic. And that inner child is very powerful. And when it's happy, it will actually make it easier for you to be successful. It will fuel your hard work. And when it's unhappy, it will sabotage you. And so, one of the things that you can do that's kind of like a cheat code to be more successful, more productive, is make your inner child happy. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I had a crazy schedule. I worked full time. So I'd work 40 to 60 hours a week. And I went to school full time, and I would take anywhere from 12 to 18 credit hours a semester. And I was an A student, which is how I got into law school. And the semester where I had the best grades, I was working full time, going to school full time, and going salsa dancing 4 or 5 nights a week. And so my schedule was kind of like this. I would wake up around 7, drink an energy drink in the shower, like, get ready, go to school, be in class by 8 or 9. I'd go from school to the office. I would work from anywhere from 10 p.m. or to midnight, depending on what time I showed up. And then I would leave the office, go to wherever the salsa club was, dance until 1, 2 in the morning. And then usually I would go out with friends afterwards to get something to eat. And I'd be home by, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 a.m., and then do it all over again. So I was running on very little sleep. Definitely don't recommend operating the way I was, but I was running on like 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, still getting my grades, still making A's, still getting my work done. Why was I able to do it all? Because my inner child was happy, because I was making time for play. Now, if I had to do it all over again, I would have done things very differently. I probably would have been more intentional about getting more sleep, salsa dancing on different days, changing my schedule. But yes, someone just asked what state are we talking about? So let me get into that. So there's two states of the body that I'm referring to. There's the relaxation response, or a parasympathetic state, and there's the stress response, which is the sympathetic state. And when you have your stress response or the fight or flight response activated, one of the things that happens is your body's natural healing process stops. So your body on its own heals itself, which is why you get a cut and eventually it'll heal, right? Well, the process that happens within your body, where it does that is halted whenever your stress response gets activated. When the stress response goes on, your body assumes it's in some type of danger. And so all bodily functions that do not help in the short term with short term survival, fight or flight, get suspended. So the natural healing process stops, which is part of why, if you've ever heard the term or the phrase like stress is a silent killer, it's not that stress itself kills you, it's that stress stops you from healing yourself, which makes you more susceptible to diseases. So if you hear about someone saying, like, my job is killing me, it's not that the job is killing you, it's that your stress response is stopping your body from healing itself. So when you have your stress response activated, your natural healing process slows down. And also, the blood flow to the part of your brain that helps you do your best work, come up with the best solutions. It's called the prefrontal cortex. The blood flow to that part of your brain gets halted. So you're literally not able to do your best work and you're going to feel more tired. Things are going to be harder. They're going to take longer. Like, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. And it could be if you just shifted from that state of being stressed to that state of being relaxed. So the three pointers that I want to talk about for how to avoid burnout, and I just want to look at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. I already touched on the first one, which is to honor your inner child. And what I mean by that is that inner child, like if you think about a little kid, right? Um if you force them to do something they don't want to do, like clean your room, eat your vegetables, they'll go along with it for a little while if they want to. Um, does anxiety take a factor? Because that's what I seem to get a lot. Yes, anxiety is a factor. I will talk about that too. Because anxiety is, it's, the sympathetic state that I'm talking about. And if you know how to shift out of that, that will help with your anxiety naturally. So I will talk about that in just a second because it's such a great question. But yeah, so the inner child, if a child doesn't want to do something, right? If they're tired and you're trying to make them pay attention or sit through a movie they don't want to watch or whatever, eventually they're going to throw a fit. And in the context of a day-to-day life, that fit, one of the ways it shows up is burnout when it's your inner child. So if you're noticing yourself feeling burned out, one good question to ask is, have I been honoring my inner child? Have I been intentional about making time for play and joy and things that make me smile? Because if you're not, if you're just all work, grind, 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 then there is a really big possibility you're going to burn out. And it's not because of all the things you're doing, it's because of what you're not doing, what you're not making time for. I know that, I'm a first generation American. So if you had immigrant parents, getting into that beast mode of just work and no play might seem normal to you, but it's actually detrimental. What you want to do is make time, even if you have a demanding schedule, even if it means you've got to cut back on sleep, you want to make a little bit of time for play. So, number one is honor your inner child. Number two is work from the right state. So, I talked about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And so, what you want to do is learn how to detect when your sympathetic, your stress state has been activated. So, signs that it's activated include, which is this is, super common when you struggle with anxiety, is being hyper focused and kind of ruminating in your thoughts on either the past or the present. And so I mentioned before, the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex gets cut off. When that happens, your ability to think clearly and expansively is compromised. And so all you can do is kind of think in these like repetitive thought loops, which is why you get kind of stuck on thinking about things that went wrong in the past or thinking about things that might go wrong in the future. Your brain is scanning for threats. And if you want to stop that, then you need to first be able to detect when your stress response is activated and then be able to shift out of it. So, ways to detect, it's different for everyone. And that's one of the things I help people with inside of private sessions, like learning how to detect when your personal stress response is activated. But some common signs include those repetitive thoughts I mentioned before, where you're hyper focused on the past or the present also includes, you know, being hyper aware of problems and being kind of blinded and numb to solutions. So when you are in that stress response, it's just really easy to see how things are wrong or they're going to go wrong or there's no way out and feel hopeless and like it's not even worth trying. And if someone comes and tries to offer you a solution, you're very likely to not be able to see it as a real solution. So, one common thing that happens to people is they'll be stressed out, they'll be, focused on a problem. Somebody will come along and say, well, why don't you try this? And they'll immediately say, no, that would never work. You don't understand. Oh my God, how could you even suggest that? And then go for a walk, take a shower, get some sleep, what something relaxing, they revisit the idea and they're like, "Oh, wait, that would work. Huh. What changed? It wasn't whether or not it was a good idea. What changed is their state. They shift from a stressed state to a relaxed state. And when they were relaxed and their brain was working optimally, they were able to see that that suggestion that somebody else made who wasn't stressed was helpful. And that's one of the reasons why working with a coach is so powerful because um, especially if you're working with me, I'm not in that stress state when you're telling me about your problems. And so it's really easy for me to see the thing that you might be overlooking that would move the needle for you very quickly. And that happens a lot in my sessions where I'm like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Very, very simple things that are almost obvious, but you cannot detect the obvious things when you are in that stress state. So learn how to detect when your stress response is activated. And then once it's once you can detect it, learn how to shift. And one really, really simple way to shift is just to use your breath, to literally deep inhale, deep exhale until you find yourself relaxing, until you find that, okay, like I can think more clearly. I'm not spiraling in my thoughts. I'm not noticing as much tension in my body. Other things that you can do to help deactivate your stress response include moving really slowly, stretching, sipping some hot tea. If you have a blanket, like covering yourself in a blanket and kind of like rubbing the blanket, like touching something soft, anything that you would do that's comforting. I'm talking about the inner child earlier, anything that you can do that you would do for a child to make them feel calm and safe and grounded. Those are all things that will help deactivate your stress response and shift you to the relaxation response. And then the final one is a little bit more nuanced. So, tip number one was honor your inner child. Tip number two, work from the right state. And number three is adopt supportive core beliefs. So, this one, if you're not familiar with the idea of what core beliefs are, might seem more nuanced. But the idea is everything that you do is a direct reflection, response of what you believe deep down. So, if you are constantly, overworking, then it suggests that you have a belief or negative beliefs about what it means to say no, what it means to say, I have limits. Maybe you come from a background where you weren't encouraged to have limits, where you were just encouraged to say yes to whatever was asked of you instead of saying, like, I don't have capacity for that right now. So anytime you're noticing like a behavior pattern that's causing pain or frustration, one thing you want to do is just stop and kind of work backwards and say like what must I believe to be true if this behavior pattern keeps showing up for me, and what do I need to believe instead? So if the belief is I can't say no, it's not safe for me to say no, then give yourself examples of times that you said no and it was fine. You know, if you are in a work environment where you're burned out, there's a really good chance that you are saying yes to things that other people are saying no to. So look at them as examples. Look at like the other people that are saying no and they're fine. And what's going to happen to them. The truth is, if you're struggling to say no at work, you're probably in a stress response thinking, okay, well, if I say yes, it means that they're going to like me, they're going to promote me, they're going to whatever. And the truth is, saying yes too much actually makes you less respected and less valued, especially in competitive workplaces, because people, respect people who respect themselves. So, adopt supportive core beliefs means make sure that you are believing things that are inspiring you to take the actions that allow you to ultimately honor your limits, and honor your ability to perform at your best, which requires prioritizing and saying, okay, these are the things that are going to help me get to the next level, and these things aren't. So I'm going to say no to everything that's not helping me achieve my goals. And I'm going to be okay with the consequences. Like, yes, maybe it means someone's going to get mad at me. But generally speaking, when people don't respect the boundaries you set, it's because they don't respect you. And so ask yourself if it matters, if you care about being respected by someone who doesn't respect you, doesn't care about you. So, if you want to do any or all of these faster, because you can do them on your own, and if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I won't gatekeep, I'll tell you whatever you need to know. But if you want to be able to implement these things faster, with less friction than doing on your own, you are more than welcome to hire me. There will be links to my calendar in the replay of this live, and you can also access my calendar right now through my website, which is on the homepage for this YouTube channel. But one of the things that I love doing is helping people, who have lives that they love, make their lives feel as good as they look. And this work is a really big piece of it, learning how to make yourself burnout proof so that you can go after those big goals that you are so excited about, those big dreams that you have that require, long hours, pushing, grinding, and, being able to do it in a way that doesn't compromise your health and doesn't, make you have to sacrifice, your relationships, all the things. Forgot to mention this at the beginning of recording, but it is now about 1:15 a.m. And I decided to record this so late to kind of hammer in the point that if you understand how to regulate your nervous system, shift from that sympathetic state to the parasympathetic state, um, you can have energy even at 1 in the morning, which is, what I'm doing right now. Someone said, good point. I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you for your time and the way you're explaining. Oh, I'm glad that this is helpful. So thank you for thanking me, because I never know what to expect when I'm recording, and I never know who's going to be there, who's going to watch in the future. But yeah, I'm here to help and be, a secret weapon for people who want to achieve their biggest goals without burning out. So I'm someone who has struggled with burnout in the past because of not understanding all the things I know now. And so I'm on a mission to help people not make the same mistakes I did. And so I do that with the content on this channel and also the work I do one-on-one with private clients. So that is all for now. I am going to be intentional about going live more. So if there are topics that you want to hear about, please feel free to mention it in the comments. I do look at them, and I would love to make this channel just more of a support to the people who watch it. So if there's something you want to hear about, somehow related to stress, anxiety, performance anxiety, work-life balance, anything like that, relationships, feel free to let me know and I will record. That is all for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.